The 1970s gave us unforgettable music, but many stars carried heavy struggles. Behind the stage lights were addictions, heartbreaks, and tragic endings. These stories remind us that fame doesn't always bring peace. Sometimes it magnifies the pain. Let's look back at the forgotten stars of the 70s whose lives ended far too soon. Number 1, Sid Vicious, Sex Pistols. Sid Vicious wasn't known for his skill, but for his attitude. When he joined the Sex Pistols in 1977, he instantly became punk's wildest symbol. His romance with Nancy Spungen was chaotic, fueled by drugs and violence. In 1978, she was found dead, and Sid was charged but never tried. Just months later, at 21, Sid overdosed on heroin. His death made him a legend almost overnight. To fans, he became the face of punk's recklessness. To others, he was a warning of how quickly fame can destroy. His story remains one of music's most infamous cautionary tales. Number 2, Bon Scott, AC/DC. Bon Scott's gritty voice powered AC/DC through the mid to late 70s. Albums like High Voltage and Highway to Hell carried his signature growl. But his life off stage was reckless. Known for heavy drinking, he often pushed himself too far. On February 19, 1980, after a night of partying, he was found dead in London. The cause was acute alcohol poisoning. He was only 33. A C/DC almost collapsed without him, but chose to continue. They recorded Back in Black as a tribute. Scott's voice was gone, but his raw energy still defines the band's sound today. Both Sid Vicious and Bon Scott lived fast and left young. If you could see one more performance, who would you choose? Punk's Sid or hard rock's Bon? Number 3, Phil Lynott, Thin Lizzy. Phil Lynott was more than a frontman. He was the soul of Thin Lizzy. With hits like Whiskey in the Jar and The Boys Are Back in Town, he helped define 1970s hard rock. His charisma and lyrical storytelling made him one of Ireland's most iconic musicians. Yet Lynott lived a double life. On stage, he was confident and magnetic. Off stage, he battled heavy drinking and drug use. Fame brought pressure, and his health began to deteriorate. By the mid-1980s, his addictions had taken a toll. On December 4th, 1985, he collapsed and later fell into a coma. He died weeks later, on January 4th, 1986, at just 36. His passing shocked fans across Europe. Thin Lizzy disbanded, but their songs remained anthems. Lynott's life is remembered as brilliant yet heartbreakingly short. Number 4, Hector Lavoe. In Salsa, no voice cut deeper than Hector Lavoe's. Rising in New York's 1970s Latin scene, he fronted the Fania All-Stars and delivered classics like El Cantante and Mi Gente. His voice was raw, passionate, and instantly recognizable. But behind his music was pain. Lavoe struggled with heroin and cocaine addiction for years, even as his fame grew. His personal life unraveled, with family tragedies and declining health adding to his burdens. In 1985, he was diagnosed with HIV, later developing AIDS. His health worsened in the late 80s, but he kept performing whenever he could. On June 29, 1993, Laveau died from AIDS-related complications at just 46. His passing left a deep scar on Latin music. Today, he is remembered not just as a star, but as salsa's most tragic icon. Number 5. Sly Stone. In the late 60s and early 70s, no one blended funk, soul, and rock like Sly Stone. With Sly and the Family Stone, he gave us hits like Everyday People and the groundbreaking There's a Riot Going On. His band was diverse, his sound innovative, and his influence enormous. But as fame grew, so did the struggles. Sly became consumed by cocaine and later crack addiction. His behavior grew unpredictable, and concerts became erratic or canceled altogether. By the early 80s, the man who once revolutionized music had nearly disappeared from the stage. His output slowed, and public appearances became rare. Though he resurfaced occasionally, his career never returned to its former heights. Addiction stole decades of his potential. Today, Sly Stone remains both a funk pioneer and one of music's most haunting stories of lost brilliance. Number 6. Ike Turner. Ike Turner's name is forever tied to both innovation and infamy. With Tina Turner, he created the Ike and Tina Turner Revue, scoring hits like Proud Mary in the early 70s. His guitar work and showmanship pushed rhythm and blues into new territory. But behind the music was darkness. Ike was abusive toward Tina, a fact he later admitted. His personal demons overshadowed his achievements. After their split in 1978, his life unraveled. His recording studio burned, and cocaine addiction took hold. In 1989, he was jailed on drug charges. Though he attempted comebacks, his reputation never recovered. On December 12, 2007, Ike Turner died of a cocaine overdose at 76. His legacy is complicated, a musical pioneer remembered as much for destruction as creation. Sly Stone faded into addiction, while Ike Turner's legacy was scarred by abuse and drugs. Which story hits you harder? Brilliance lost to silence, or talent overshadowed by violence?
I thought you could do no wrong until...
Number 7. Phyllis Hyman. Phyllis Hyman had one of the most captivating voices of her era. Known for her jazz-inflected R&B ballads, she rose to fame in the late 70s with songs like You Know How to Love Me. Her elegant stage presence and emotional depth won her a loyal following. But behind the spotlight, Hyman struggled with severe depression and bipolar disorder. Alcohol and cocaine made the battles even harder.
Trust is a hard thing to come. You told me you loved me. I thought I was your own.
Despite her success, she often felt overlooked in an industry that didn't always give her the recognition she deserved. By the early 90s, her mental health had worsened. On June 30th, 1995, just before a scheduled performance, she took her own life at age 45. Her death was devastating to fans who saw her as a rare, authentic talent. Hyman is remembered as a gifted singer whose pain tragically matched the power of her voice. Number 8. Ian Curtis, Joy Division. Joy Division's music was haunting, and much of that came from Ian Curtis. His baritone voice and intense stage presence defined songs like Love Will Tear Us Apart and the album Unknown Pleasures. In the late 70s, his band was on the cusp of worldwide fame. But Curtis suffered from severe epilepsy, often collapsing after shows. Combined with depression and a failing marriage, his inner struggles grew unbearable. In May 1980, on the eve of Joy Division's first U.S. tour, Curtis took his own life at just 23. His death came just before the release of Closer, turning the record into a haunting farewell. The remaining band members formed New Order, carrying pieces of his legacy forward. Today, Curtis is remembered not only for his tragic end, but for reshaping post-punk with raw honesty. Number 9. Karen Carpenter, The Carpenters. Karen Carpenter's warm, soothing voice defined soft pop in the early 70s. Alongside her brother Richard, she scored massive hits like Close to You and Top of the World. Her alto was instantly recognizable, gentle, intimate, and timeless. But while the duo's success looked perfect from the outside, Karen was quietly fighting a deadly battle with anorexia. At a time when eating disorders were barely understood, her illness went unnoticed by many fans. Behind the scenes, she endured years of health struggles, hiding her condition as best she could. By the early 80s, the toll was evident. On February 4th, 1983, Karen died of heart failure caused by complications from anorexia. She was only 32. Her death shocked the music world and helped bring awareness to a hidden illness.
Would you still remember me?
Number 10. Lynyrd Skynyrd, Band. Few bands embodied Southern rock like Lynyrd Skynyrd. With Sweet Home Alabama and Freebird, they became one of the defining American acts of the 70s. Their shows were rowdy celebrations of rock and rebellion. But on October 20th, 1977, tragedy struck. While traveling to a concert, their chartered plane ran out of fuel and crashed in Mississippi. Lead singer Ronnie Van Zant, guitarist Steve Gaines, backup singer Cassie Gaines, and 3 crew members died. Others were badly injured, and the original band was shattered overnight. For years, Lynyrd Skynyrd was gone. When they returned with Ronnie's brother Johnny on vocals, the shadow of that crash still lingered. The plane crash remains one of rock's darkest tragedies, forever tied to the band's legacy of both triumph and loss. Karen Carpenter's tragedy raised awareness about hidden struggles, while Lynyrd Skynyrd's crash ended a rising era in a single moment. Which loss feels more heartbreaking to you, a quiet personal battle or a sudden disaster that silenced a band?
She's a good girl, loves her mom.
Number 11. Tom Petty. Tom Petty rose to fame in the late 70s with his band, the Heartbreakers. Songs like American Girl and albums like Damn the Torpedoes made him one of the pillars of American rock. His blend of heartland grit and pop melody gave him a devoted following. But behind the hits, Petty suffered. Years of touring left him with chronic shoulder and hip pain. To cope, he turned to prescription painkillers. Over time, dependency grew, even as he continued to perform. In 2017, shortly after finishing a 40th anniversary tour, tragedy struck. On October 2nd, he died at age 66 from an accidental overdose of opioids and sedatives. His passing stunned fans who thought of him as unstoppable. Petty left behind a legacy of storytelling rock, his death a reminder of the hidden costs of success.
To scratch my itch, sweet Annie Rich, and welcome me.
Number 12, Gram Parsons. Gram Parsons was a pioneer of country rock, blending twang and rock grit in ways few dared. He played with the Byrds on Sweetheart of the Rodeo, and later with the Flying Burrito Brothers. His solo records in the early 70s hinted at what might have been. But Parsons was haunted by addiction. Drugs and alcohol followed him throughout his career, threatening to overshadow his innovation.
I thought about a calico bonnet from Cheyenne to out with the truckers and the kickers and the cowboys.
On September 19, 1973, he was found dead in a motel near Joshua Tree. At just 26, he had overdosed on morphine and tequila.
From Cheyenne to Tennessee.
What happened next only added to his legend. Friends tried to cremate his body in the desert, turning his death into rock folklore.
He wants to take my money for something that I've never been.
Today, Parsons is remembered as a visionary who helped shape alt country, but whose brilliance was cut short before it could truly shine.
What would you do if I sang?
Number 13, Joe Cocker. Joe Cocker's gravelly voice made him one of the most unique performers of the 70s. His breakthrough came with a soulful cover of the Beatles' With a Little Help from My Friends, performed at Woodstock in 1969. The early 70s brought more hits, including You Are So Beautiful, cementing his place in rock and soul. But fame came with excess. Cocker lived hard, sinking into heroin and alcohol abuse. By the mid-70s, he was nearly bankrupt, and his career looked finished. Against the odds, he fought his way back. In the 80s, he returned with a string of successes, including the Grammy-winning duet Up Where We Belong. Cocker went on to tour for decades, rebuilding his reputation. When he passed from lung cancer in 2014 at 70, fans remembered both his struggles and his extraordinary comeback.
Could you help me place this call?
Number 14, Jim Croce. Jim Croce was a storyteller at heart. With folk rock charm and a warm, everyman voice, he quickly became a rising star in the early 70s. Songs like Bad, Bad Leroy Brown, and Time in a Bottle captured everyday life with humor and tenderness. His career was just taking off when tragedy struck. On September 20th, 1973, after a concert in Louisiana, his small plane crashed on takeoff. Croce was only 30 years old. The crash also claimed the lives of his guitarist and several others. Days later, his album I Got a Name was released. And Time in a Bottle soared to number 1 posthumously. Fans mourned not just the man, but the music that might have come. Croce remains one of the great what-ifs of 70s music, a bright flame extinguished far too soon. Number 15, Badfinger. Badfinger seemed destined for greatness. Signed to the Beatles' Apple label, they scored early 70s hits like Come and Get It and co-wrote Without You. Later, a massive hit for Harry Nilsson and Mariah Carey. For a moment, they were hailed as the next Beatles. But behind the success was betrayal. Their manager, Stan Polly, mishandled finances and withheld royalties. The band, once riding high, fell deep into debt. The pressure was unbearable. In 1975, lead singer Pete Ham died by suicide at just 27, devastated over money and betrayal. Years later, bassist Tom Evans also took his life in 1983. Badfinger's story became one of rock's darkest tragedies. Incredible talent crushed by greed and mismanagement. Today, they're remembered with admiration and sorrow, proof that even great songs can't always save the people who create them. The 1970s gave us music that still plays on radios, in films, and in memories. But behind many of those songs were lives marked by struggle, addiction, and heartbreak. These artists remind us that fame can be dazzling, but also destructive. Some died young, others later in life, but all left behind legacies that continue to resonate. Their stories are cautionary tales and tributes to their artistry at the same time. Looking back, it's not just the hits we remember, but the people who gave everything to make them. So here's the question. Of all these tragic stories, which one lingers with you the most?